Angry Guy here, and today we're discussing the sad truth about dating modern women that password bros realized. So, guys, we're going to be discussing the sad truth about dating modern women that passport bros realized. And I mean, it really shows because men have decided that they're done, they're walking away, and they've had enough. We're looking at a channel called Manhood, and we're looking at this video that says the raw truth about dating modern women.
Women should be equally represented in the decision-making fora of our nation. Maybe that's really just about having proper equality in a body that's meant to be representative.
Well, I do believe that women should have. I don't understand your question,
I guess you don't. That's pretty obvious, unfortunately.
Well, how about if you phrase it more clearly instead of just insulting me? 99.9% of bricklayers are men. Should we have quotas for women?
Is bricklaying representative democracy?
You see that? Is bricklaying the representative democracy? Women only want to sit in positions of power, but they don't want to have positions of responsibility. They don't want to do the hard work. They don't want to they don't want to be responsible for anything. They want to have power and privilege, and that's it. All there is today when it comes to the way modern women are.
That has nothing to do with the question. The question is if there's evidence of structural inequality and oppression because women aren't precisely represented at 50% in all professions at all levels, then why don't we have a conversation about having women represented in all professions at all levels? Why do we talk about the C-suite, for example? Why do we talk about politics and positions of power? Why don't we talk about it across the board?
Okay,
Yeah, but that's because it's power.
All my back, all my legs, the lot, and I ended up in hospital because she won't let me out of the house.
It's not funny though. Can I tell you why it's not funny? If this was the other way around and a woman was sat here and a bloke had locked her in a flat and she had to jump out and injured herself, you lot would not be laughing. Somehow, if it happens to a bloke, that's funny. That's not funny, is it?
The power a white woman has in the legal system is fucking atrocious, especially if you're not a white, like if you're a white man yourself, you're still fucked. But if you're like a minority man, you are fucked. If a white girl wants you to be in jail or some shit, bro, you are fucked.
Guys, I've talked about this before. I've said it that white men created a society that was too equal, too fair, and too forthcoming, too providing for women, so especially white women, that it essentially they created this monster. When you create a society where all the needs of the women are met in society and can be met through the government, then the women are going to turn around and say, we no longer need you. We can get it from Big Daddy. And this is one of the biggest mistakes that men made in society, especially white males. They gave too much. How the fuck did women get the right to vote without having to serve in the draft? It's quite simple. Sims. And who were the ones in power back then? White dudes. White Sims. Think about it very, very carefully. All right? White men in Western societies, and this is predominantly happening in Western societies, white men gave white women so much that now white women are destroying these societies because they feel like they are the superior. Because they have to be the superior to be provided for, to be cared for, and treated like they're fucking royalty. All right? Because who in their right minds would do something like that if they weren't the superior? The problem is simps. Simps have allowed this shit to happen. Simps are responsible for this shit. And it's the outright truth. It hurts hearing. A lot of people don't want to hear it, but it's the fucking truth. All right? It's the fucking truth. White guys did too much. They created a society that was too fair, too just, too giving, too equal, too stable for women, so that women could turn around and say, especially white women, specifically white women, could turn around and say, we don't need men. All right? And the government, what they did was they started this shit with the black community where they offered public assistance, and we saw exactly how that destroyed the black community. Think about this very carefully. Blacks coming out of slavery, where they had nothing, had family units. There were no fatherless homes after slavery. During the Jim Crow era, where there was rampant segregation, there were no fatherless homes. How is this possible? There were no abortions. How is this possible? During the worst of times for African Americans, there were no fatherless homes. There were no abortions. Blacks make up 13% of the population but commit 50% of the crimes. Back then, that was completely unheard of. High rates of black incarceration, completely unheard of. This is during an era where socioeconomically they did not have the same opportunities that other people had, and they were thriving. Something doesn't make sense here. Oh, it's simple. The welfare state did not exist. And the very moment that the welfare state entered the picture, everything went to hell. It started in the black community and it expanded outward. And we need to be honest about this, because you don't see this shit happening in any other society other than Western white societies. No, we need to be very honest about this. You don't see this shit happening in Africa, all right? The leaders in Africa are literally passing laws that outlaw the alphabet community. Okay? That outlaw it. Women can talk shit in South America about feminism, but they won't find a husband and they won't find food. They can try that shit in these countries and they will starve. They will starve. In Asia, oh my gosh. In South Korea, the South Korean government literally told women they can go fund feminism themselves. They can go fund it themselves. All right? The only countries where this type of shit has been able to take off are in Western white countries. Western white countries with strong economies, where the men decided that they were going to give women everything they could ever want, everything they ever needed. They were going to protect them at all costs, even if it damaged the livelihoods of all men and boys. They didn't give a shit. And now this is how society is today. And I have to call it out. Men gave women too much, especially white men. They gave them too much. They gave them too much. They gave them too many rights. They gave them rights they did not earn. The right to vote is a sacred right. And women will not fight in a draft. No, they won't. And a lot of men today have made it clear that they're not going to fight for the country. They're going to get the fuck out. If the draft really hits, they're going to flee the country or they're going to go to jail. But they're not fighting overseas. All right? They're not heading for World War III. They'll take that $250,000 fine and 5 years in prison. And they'll eat that shit. They'll rock with that shit. And guys, if you're enjoying these videos, you need to subscribe to the channel. You need to subscribe, hit the subscribe button, turn on, like the video, and turn on notifications to miss another video ever again. Guys, men have gotten the short end of the stick forever. The dating market is a fucking cesspool. And that's why the Passport Bros realized it a long time ago that the game is rigged, and the only way you're going to win is by not playing. It's by walking away and getting the fuck out. Walking away from Western society, walking away from Western women, and getting the fuck out. Guys, have you ever thought about it? Have you ever thought about how much of a disgrace Western society is? Have you ever thought about the African American plight? You have guys from Nigeria, Nigerian scammers, and yet the perception of Nigerians, the perception of the general African, is better than the perception of of the general African American. People do not perceive African Americans, and Africans as the same. Even with stereotypes being lodged at Africans, they are still perceived as harder working and in some cases more intelligent than African Americans. It's the same with people from the Caribbean, and it's the same with people from other countries. People of African descent from other countries, including in South America, like Brazil. It's a strange thing. It's a very strange thing. But then you realize that Western society is so toxic. It is such a failed society that the byproduct, the people that Western society is producing are absolute shit. Because Western society is built around taking the man out of the home, dividing the family up, destroying the family unit, and allowing women to run wild so that consumerism consumes the life of everyone. Think about the word consumerism and then look at the word consumption, because it's about consuming our lives until there's nothing left. And the only thing we have is buying shit to survive so we can still feel a bit of a dopamine rush for a moment. Like, oh my gosh, it's shiny, and then on to the next one. All of this shit is because of Western society. It got out of control because of the fucking simps. Those the fucking people are saying, oh, it's the fault of the women. The women can't do shit. Women can't do shit unless men allow them to. It's Western society. It's men in Western society that created all of that shit. All of this shit. And that's why for 40 to 50 years, white dudes in Australia, the United States, the UK have been taking their passports and silently walking away from society. This shit isn't new. This old white dude literally posted on my posted a comment like saying, "I've been walking away since 1983." Dude, I was born in 1983. He said I've been a pastor bro since 1983. I'm happy for the black guys that they're finally figuring it out. Dude, I was born in 1983. I will be 40 years old in October. All right? And this guy was doing this back in 1983. What the fuck? These white dudes dipped. They took off silently, all right? Like a shadow in the night. There are towns in Australia, I've learned, that are literally made up of Australian men and their Asian wives. And that's it. These men realized that Western society was full of shit a long time ago. And that the only way to survive was to not play the fucking game and to get the fuck out. These white guys realized it and they got the fuck out and they didn't tell anyone. Now the black guys have found out and they're running around like, runaway slaves, and they're telling everyone there's freedom. And the problem is that the agents, what do you call these the hands, or what the fuck you want to call them, the women are agents of the government, agents of oppression. They're trying to claim that these men are going over to these countries to have relationships with children or traffic and all this other bullshit because they're using slander. And it's interesting because I showed you guys a video. I showed you guys a video recently where this guy, he said something very interesting. This white guy said something interesting. Why are these women doing this? Why are these predominantly black women going after these black men that are leaving the country? Why are they doing this? The reason why they're doing it. It's not even specifically to attack the passport bros. Oh no, it's a warning. It's a warning to ensure that the beta males that are orbiting them, the orbiters, don't leave. That's what's happening right now. And I did not realize it. And it is so true. Why are these women reacting so negatively to the passport bros? Because these men have already left. These men aren't even complaining about these women in America. They've already left. And they're just telling, and some of them are telling men, hey, listen, there's freedom over here. There's freedom over here. What these women are angry, what these women are trying to do is they're trying to make sure that the beta male orbiters know you better never leave. All right? You better never get that idea in your head. Because these are the plan B guys that they're trying to rely on. When shit gets rough, oh baby, can you pay my rent for me? Oh baby, can you buy this for me? A real man knows that. And these men aren't getting laid. They're just fucking orbiters. And if it gets real bad, then maybe they might marry one of them and try to use them as a come up. Go through 3 marriages and take whatever the fuck they can out of these guys. Milk them as much as they can. All right? What they are really trying to do is prevent these orbiters from ever getting it in their fucking heads that they can leave, that they can get off the plantation. All right? Because what do Sims do? Sims aren't loyal. Sims are like hoes. Sims aren't loyal. All right? As soon as a woman's sexual marketplace value begins to diminish significantly, a Simp will move on to his next to his next woman he's worshiping. Sims are like hoes. Sims are loyal. And they're trying to make sure that these Sims know their fucking place. Like, you're not going anywhere. I own you, motherfucker. All right? I own you. Don't you ever get it in your head that you can go anywhere else. There is no hope for you out there. All right? I will shame these men to the ends of the earth. All you have are us. And you're going to keep on worshiping us until the day you die. And guys, again, if you're enjoying these videos, you need to subscribe to the channel. Hit the subscribe button and turn off notifications to never miss a video ever again. And also, I have something I want to tell you about Patreon right now. Hey guys, I just want to show you some of the great exclusives you can find on patreon.com/angryguy. We have new videos such as passport grannies are using poor blokes for sex overseas. Hero dad unalives a pedophile. People are still living in extreme fear of COVID. Leftover women are growing. And of course, 7 kids by 7 baby mamas. Tyrone is a menace. This is a video that was too hot for YouTube. And we have other videos as well that are exclusive to our Patreon members. So go ahead and check out Patreon, patreon.com/angryguy. The link is in the description of the video. Enjoy. I mean, guys, you have to wake up. You have to use your heads. You cannot be asleep at the wheel. You have to understand that as shit continues to go downhill, your only choice is to get the fuck out. Either you disengage from society and you only work as much as you have to, or you walk away entirely. You walk away entirely if you can. But you don't keep on playing this game. You know, it'll cost you your life. It'll cost you your fucking life. These women believe that they own us. They believe that they own us men, that we are their property. Okay? And men need to break away from that mindset. Men need to understand that it's all women have female nature, but these women have no culture. Their culture is consumerism. Okay? It's ugly. And it can't last forever. It simply cannot last forever. It's not sustainable. And the very moment that we have another crisis and there's no money and the economy pulls back, and it always happens because we are overdue for a good recession. The moment this shit happens, these women are in hell. Guys, don't forget the Great Depression. Things always repeat themselves. I want to show y'all something. There was a pandemic back in 1918. pandemic of 1918, the Spanish flu. It occurred from 1918 to 1919. All right, and there were around 25 to 50 million people who lost their lives. All right, the end date was April 1920. Okay, and the disease was influenza. And how many cases suspected? 500 million. All right, I want you all to think about that very carefully. We literally had, regardless of whether or not you believe it was manufactured or whatever, we literally had a pandemic almost 100 years to the date. 100 days. Guys, history repeats itself. Right now, we're living on all this funny money that was printed over the last 20 years. All right. Do you remember the Great Recession? They printed a ton of funny money during the Great Recession. All this, they printed it just out of thin air. All right. And they circulated it into the economy. And they said, okay, well, now we're going to save the world using this money. Okay. And then the pandemic happened. And what did they do? Oh, they printed more of that funny money out of thin air. And they said, oh, we're going to just circulate that in the economy. And that's going to save the world. That's going to save the economy. The irony right now is, you know what led to the Great Depression is the fact that people believe that things were better than they really were. Okay? And they've been fudging the numbers. Living in our society today, the numbers are fudged. And look at Silicon Valley Bank collapsing. That should never have been possible. The feds are saying, okay, yeah, we fucked up on that, but don't worry about that too much. Do you know what very well can happen during the next great catastrophe? What would really lead to a complete and utter meltdown? When Bank of America, you heard me right, when Bank of America, Chase, Citibank, all right, and others like them suddenly say, we can no longer meet all of our deposits. We don't have enough money to meet all of our deposits. When you have multiple financial institutions suddenly collapse, the government can try to step in and stabilize the markets all they want, even if they're too big to fail. But the fact of the matter is that when all these financial institutions fail, that is going to bring into question the value of the American dollar and where the economy actually is. And the government trying to print trillions of dollars to bail these banks out is going to be a fucking joke. Oh, we're going to print $1.5 trillion to save these. I mean, I don't even know. It could be closer to $2 trillion. And they're going to print that money to save these banks. Guys, when they do that, we're going to have massive inflation. And that very well can help lead us into what do you call it? The next Great Depression. The Great Depression, when did the Great Depression happen? Was that 1928? Let's check that out. Years of the Great Depression. Was that 1928? 1929. 1929 through 1939. Like a history repeats itself almost exactly. And guys, don't forget, we've been told that the Great Reset's on the way, where you will own nothing, but you will be happy. Gotta love how the word great is in all of these things, right? And guys, what's interesting? What's happening in 19? What is happening in 1930, which is just seven years away? It's 20, not 1930. In 2030, which is just 7 years away from now. 45% of women between the ages of 25 and 44 are all expected to be single and childless, but of course they're empowered. They're empowered when they'll be empowered when they smell of cat piss and boxed wine. They'll be empowered, but they're going to be single, they're going to be childless, and who's going to subsidize their living? Because men are walking away from society entirely. So what's going to happen to these women? They're strong and they're empowered. No, bullshit. This has never happened before. What's really going to happen is that you're going, I've said this before, that society would not collapse. Groups of people in society are going to collapse. And this group of women, you're going to see major collapses amongst this group of women as they can no longer hold things down. And it won't just be them. It'll be women who are older than them as well. All right? You're going to see roughly half of all women or something close to that in society just collapse. Where Section 8 won't be enough. With rapid inflation, Section 8, government handouts won't be enough because they won't be enough they will not be enough to offset inflation. And when this happens, it's highly possible that the world banks will turn around and say, we need to begin diversifying very quickly, because it's clear that the American dollar can no longer be the sole reserve currency of the world. And someone said to me, the yuan is making moves right now. And they're absolutely right. What China has been doing is China has been going to various countries and laying foundations in various countries and investing in various countries. And what they're doing is really introducing the yuan to these economies. And as soon as the dollar falls from grace, as soon as there's uncertainty around it, what the Chinese are going to do is say, oh, well, here's the yuan. We have a structure in place. And let me tell you all something. It'll be like the next cryptocurrency boom. People will be rushing, including Americans, to purchase the yuan. And countries like Russia are going to be stocked up on that shit, because they're friends. Countries in the Middle East, countries in Africa, but not the United States. In fact, they might even impose limits on the amount of yuan Americans can purchase. Because by Americans choosing to hold yuan instead of American dollars, that means that America is now devaluing. Americans are now devaluing the American dollar. And what can end up happening is, and this is very true, you go to other countries and you have American dollars, and you can spend your American dollars in other countries. You go to South America, you can spend your American dollars in South America. You can spend them in Mexico. You can spend them in Canada. Okay, you can take your American dollars to many countries in this world, and you can spend them there. You can spend your American dollars even in Asia. No one is going to turn them down because they are the reserve currency of the American dollar is the reserve currency of the world. You can spend your American dollars in Africa. They will do conversions immediately. Okay? They love the American dollar. They love the greenback. But what happens when Americans start saying, you know what, I'm going to start holding some yuan? What suddenly starts happening is that you end up with people saying, well, do you accept yuan? I have yuan. Like, for example, you start going to some countries, and in some countries like Mexico, people say, oh, well, I have yuan. Oh yeah, we'll take yuan. Oh, do you accept yuan in America? Oh no, because I don't have American bills, but I have yuan. Do you accept? And when this begins happening, the government will freak the fuck out, and they'll start trying to impose limits on the circulation and the use of the yuan in America, and it won't work out for them because it will just result in more inflation. And women themselves, as a group, are going to find themselves in a turbulent situation because the government will not be able to provide enough money to offset the cost of living, to offset the increases in the cost of living for women. All right? And in an era where artificial intelligence at that point will have replaced a ton of jobs, an increasing number of jobs. Cashier jobs have already been on the way out for years. Many of those jobs that are still left, those jobs will now be gone as well. Automation will have replaced even some jobs in the medical field, specifically jobs that women deviate to. And what's going to happen? There's not going to be any. Men are not going to be there. Men have no trust whatsoever. It doesn't matter all the shit, and all women know how to do is shame. And you're going to be watching. You're going to see a ton more over the next several years. You're going to see more and more women rushing into the manosphere, and eventually the manosphere is going to change because you're going to see the manosphere transforming into something that looks like almost like a new hosting spot for women. There's going to be so many women in the manosphere that guys are going to say, "What the fuck is going on?" It's already beginning to happen, but you're going to see massive growth where the manosphere is basically going to become the new spot for society. What's happening in the manosphere? Okay. And of course, the feminists are going to start talking their shit. This is, women, men hold all this power. There won't be any woman sphere, all right? Because where the men go, women follow. That's the way it's always been. Anyway, guys, what do you think about this? What do you think about the sad truth about dating modern women that Pastor Burroughs realized? All these white guys figured this shit out 40, 50, 60 years ago and got the fuck out of America, got the fuck out of Western countries. There are literally towns in Australia where there's just a bunch of white dudes and their fucking Asian wives, and there are no white women allowed in there. This is the reality. Guys, if you're loving this content, you need to subscribe to the channel. Subscribe, turn on notifications, never miss another video again, and hit the like button if you already haven't. Because there's some of you, I've done this 3 times in this video already, and there's some of you watching right now that still haven't subscribed. And you're like, fuck that shit. Well, fuck you too. Anyway, that's all I have for you right now. Let me know what you guys think about the topic of this video. We'll talk more about it in the comments. Go ahead and hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWA, men walking away, and cheers.